I've been getting a lot of questions about these two tents lately, the Pomoly Hussar and the Luxe MinipeakXL. Welcome to It's Good in the Woods. Let's talk about these tents. The purpose of this video is to compare these two tents, go over all the information, discuss the pros and cons as I see them, and to try and help you make a better decision as to which of these tents is best for you. If you've been considering one of these tents, this video is for you. So let's just start with the price. Currently, right now, as of November 2001, the Pomoly Hussar is $175 for the whole package. That's the outer tent, that's the inner tent, all the stakes, the pole, carry case, all of it, 175 bucks. That's a really good deal. Now the MinipeakXL is $195 for the outer tent and the stakes, a winter inner tent, and the carry case. It's an extra $31 for the pole, plus shipping. It's worth noting that the Hussar, Pomoly, worldwide free shipping, so that's a plus. So if budget is your primary concern, then the Hussar is probably going to come out on top. But these are two really cool tents, and there's a lot more to consider than price. So let's dig a little deeper. I've already done detailed reviews on both of these tents, so if you're interested in a more in-depth look at either of these tents, I'll leave the links for you right here, and I'll put the links in the description as well. So I'm not going to go too crazy with the details in this video. For this review, I'm just going to be comparing the outer tents. The tent, the poles, the stakes, just your basic outer tent setup. What I will say about the inner tents is the way that they attach into the outer tent system is different between the two tents, and one is far superior than the other. Now the inner of the Pomoly has these buckles, these little clips that insert into the outer tent, like so. And that's it. Easy peasy. Except, slightest little bit of pressure, and that pulls right out. Even the other one. Put it in, pulls right out. Not a very good design. So what I do to remedy this is I use the hook that is intended to hang accessories such as a light and place it under the clip for support. This is the attachment hook for the MinipeakXL. This just attaches in a loop, nice and secure, simple and effective. And that's not letting go. The Hussar is made from a 40 denier silicone coated ripstop nylon. It comes seam sealed from the factory with a hydrostatic head rating of 2,000 millimeters. There are two doors. The tent has a peak height of 5 foot 2 inches and has a hexagon shaped floor plan with 58 square feet. It comes with 2 stove jacks and does not have snow skirts. The tent, pole, all 16 stakes, and the carry case come in at a weight of 4 pounds and 1 ounce. The MinipeakXL is made from 68 denier polyurethane coated ripstop polyester with a hydrostatic head rating of 1,500 millimeters. And it does not come seam sealed from the factory. There are two doors. The tent has a peak height of 5 foot 2 inches. It has a square shaped floor plan with 72.5 square feet of space. It comes with 1 stove jack and does not have snow skirts. The tent, the pole, all the stakes, and the carry case come in at 3 pounds, 14.5 ounces. Now the MinipeakXL does have a slightly lower waterproof rating than the Hussar, so points to Pomoly for that. But we're talking about 500 millimeters of hydrostatic head. It's negligible. I can absolutely guarantee you that this tent will keep you dry in the wind, rain, and snow once you seal it. Now I can see where that would be an issue for some. Some people just don't want to seam seal their own tent. So that's something to consider. That doesn't bother me all that much because the MinipeakXL is a very basic, simple tent and it's easy to seal. Plus I make my own seam sealer, real cheap and easy, so that doesn't break the bank. It's not an issue. The Hussar has a hexagon-shaped floor plan offering 58 square feet of space. It requires a minimum of 6 stakes to pitch, and all guyed out and reinforced, we're looking at 16 stakes. Now in comparison, the MinipeakXL has a square floor plan with 72.5 square feet of floor space. That's a huge difference, and the space is incredibly noticeable. This tent also only requires a minimum of 4 stakes to pitch. Fully guyed out, fully reinforced, 8 stakes in all. So there's an 8 stake difference in setup between these two tents. Also worth noting is that the MinipeakXL does not have a removable cap, which is another thing to mess around with when you're setting up the Hussar. Now there's pros and cons to the removable cap, but in the wintertime, which is hot tent season, you're always going to have the cap. So that's just another thing to mess around with. Plus, you can't set up the Hussar with a tripod, which is another option that you can use with this. So you're going to get a lot more living space out of the MinipeakXL, but if we're looking at everything objectively, The Hussar will fit into a much tighter spot, so if you're in the woods and you don't have much room to work with, the Hussar might win. The MinipeakXL also wins on ease of use for opening the tents up. Simple tug of a single shot cord attachment on each side of the tent, the doors of the MinipeakXL can be opened up all the way and rolled back. To do the same with the Hussar requires manipulating 3 stake-out points on each side of the tent, 6 stakes in total. Not a big deal, but again, ease of use. Now that both of these tents are opened up to their full capability, both doors open, rolled all the way back, the size differences of these tents are really starting to show themselves. With both doors opened up, this panel offers about 4 feet 10 inches of protection, in comparison to 8 feet 4 inches. That's a huge difference. For size reference, I'm using my FE Active camp cot. The dimensions of this cot are 6 foot 3 inches long by 28 inches wide by 6 inches tall. Now I'm 5'7", and there's enough room in this tent for me, no doubt. But it's borderline tight with a cot. It's a great tent, but it is definitely made for small people. Don't get me wrong, there's space in this tent, but that space is fairly limited. If you're a 6 foot tall person, you might find this tent to be a little bit tight for your liking. Now when you compare the livable space between the two, it's no contest. The MinipeakXL wins hands down. There's so much more room in this tent. And when it's nasty out and you're waiting out a storm for a day or two or more, you're going to want that space. That space is really nice, especially when you add a stove. Stove will take up a third of your room, and wood and everything else. Space is key. And being that these are hot tents, let's talk about the stove jacks real quick. Here's the stove jack that you get from Pomoly. They give you 2 of them with the Hussar, I'm assuming so that you can use 2 different size pipes. You have to cut your own hole in it. They recommend making an X and feeding your pipe through. And this is the one you get from Luxe, which you can notice a significant size difference. Now this one might look like it's a little bit more beat up because it is. It's got 2 years of use on it. I see where maybe potentially there could be some issues with these, but I'm not going to say for certain. It's just a theory of mine because there's not much room to work with here. And if you have anything bigger than a 3-inch diameter pipe, then maybe you might run into issues. It's just food for thought though. Now I really think that both of these tent systems are quite impressive for what they are. They're both great tent systems. It's just like when you compare anything though, there's pros and cons. The Hussar, it's smaller, it's more complicated to set up, but it'll fit into tighter spaces and it's a much more affordable package. The Luxe, it's lighter, it's bigger, it's got a lot more square footage for space, but it's a lot more expensive. Now with all that said, I know that some of you probably want to know, if I could only have one tent, which one would it be? For me, it's a simple combination of space and ease of use. The minimum of 4 stakes to set up is really nice. It might not seem like that much, but when you're out there cold, adjusting things, playing around, trying to get all those panels even, making everything work out, the MinipeakXL all buttoned down and staked out is 8 stakes. The Hussar is 16. There's a huge difference in fiddle factor with those numbers. So for me, the Luxe MinipeakXL is the tent that I'll go to every single time. And as I close this video out, I feel like I need to make a disclaimer in the name of transparency. I bought this tent, the MinipeakXL, with my own money. The Hussar was given to me from Pomoly. Now just because a company gives me gear does not mean that I'm going to be swayed to put that particular item in favor of another. I love gear. I'm a gear junkie, and if a company wants to give me gear to use and review, if it's gear that I'm interested in, I will gladly accept. So as a guarantee from me to you, the viewer, I will never, ever, ever, ever put a product in favor just because it's given to me. I will gladly take gear and use it and report my findings as honestly and as transparently as I can. I can only honestly report my findings. I can't base my opinion or reviews off of other people's opinions or experiences with a product. For example, there are many, many, many negative reviews about Luxe. You hear them all the time. But I personally have never had an issue with Luxe. Never. I've ordered 4 tents from them. All the tents came in a very timely fashion with no issues whatsoever. Now their warranty does suck. It's not very good at all, but I don't really care that much because I am the warranty. Now that said, I think that Pomoly has better customer service than Luxe. It's like everything, if you look hard enough, you're going to find negative reviews. I've seen negative reviews on Pomoly. It happens. You know, a company cannot be perfect. So I can't say anything bad about my experience with Luxe, and I can't say anything bad about my experience with Pomoly. And I'm done rambling about it. With any luck, if you've been considering one of these two tents, this video will help you make a decision on which one is best for you. I've tried as best as possible to be non-biased and just report the differences of these tents and which differences work and don't work for me. And again, I can't stress enough that just because the MinipeakXL wins out for my personal preference does not mean that the Hussar is a bad tent. It's a really good tent. I like the Hussar so much that I had to get my hands on the Hussar Plus because that thing looked awesome, and it is. I wonder how that would stack up against the Megahorn. I'm Justin. I really appreciate you watching this video. I hope you found it useful. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you next time.